We've all been there and had that. Days that make you wonder why you ever got into the dairy business. Well, we're here to help, but be warned, the cause of these problems could be you. Welcome to the Cowtime stock handling video, and the hope that by having a bit of a look at cow psychology, we can make life easier for everyone and boost profits in your business. The three elements of milk harvesting, the cows, people and facilities, are dependent on one another. Each affects the other two. Cow behavior, for instance, is dependent on both the behavior of the cow handler and the design and operation of the facilities, affecting the ease, or otherwise, of moving cows in and out of the shed, as well as the smoothness of actual milking. So what we're getting at here is that the behaviour of the cow handler and the physical features of the shed are connected. Only by considering both sides of this story can we achieve better cow behaviour. Now, behaviour is a two-way street. The impact that the cow handler has on the cows will in turn influence the impact the cows have on their handler. Or to put it another way, a bad handler gets paid back with badly behaved cows. Of course, poor handling and poor facility design will make cows fearful and stressed and likely to resist entering the milking shed. Of course, they'll be restless and will take longer to milk. But how many of us consider that this makes us grumpy and inclined to take it out on the cows? And not just today. That bad attitude can be self-perpetuating. Just think a moment where it leads, when the operator and the cows are stressed out. Yes, not only are you and your staff having a bad time, but when you have fearful and stressed cows, you start seeing more problems, like lameness, and there's a cut in milk yield and milk quality. And yes, this all leads back very quickly to money. Lost money. Studies across the dairy industry have shown that high levels of fear in cows cuts overall milk yield and depresses protein and fat content. Your production could be down by as much as 10% through having anxious cows. Yes, it's that serious. So what are some of the characteristics of cows that we need to be aware of when handling them? Cows have what we might call panoramic vision. They hardly need to turn to know what's behind them, and they can also see a range of colours. This is valuable information if you're in the business of handling cows. Researchers have given particular attention to what they call the flight zone, the space within which an animal shows avoidance of humans. Entering the flight zone from behind causes the cow to move forward, whereas entering from the front causes it to swing away. Therefore, handlers are advised to work on the edge of the flight zone, so movement can be controlled by approaching or withdrawing from the front, side or rear of the animal. The size of the flight zone will decrease slowly if handlers handle cows frequently and positively. If this touchy-feely approach is used, the cow's fear of humans will decline. The way cows see things makes milking facility design very important. Cows tend to stop and lower their heads to judge the depth of steps or gutters. They tend to hesitate at shadows on the ground. They like to move from dim areas to lighter areas, but will not approach a very bright light. Sparkling reflections will cause balking. Races, particularly elevated races, should not directly face the sun. Cattle are very sensitive to high-frequency sounds, much more so than people. All loud noise can disturb cows, but sounds of people yelling or whistling are more stressful than sounds of clanging gates. Sudden sound will have the effect of making cows swing about, looking for the source. Despite popular theory, having a loud radio playing during milking is no solution. Calm, Quiet milking environments are better for the cows and the milkers.
And we'll do our little bit as well. Thanks for calling. Michael in Eaglemont, good morning.
Something not so widely known is that cows avoid places that have urine from stressed cows. Is your dairy marked as a place to avoid by your herd? Good design and handling will make sure this is not the case. Understanding herd instincts can greatly smooth stock handling. We've all noticed that cows like to stick together, but it goes far deeper than that. There's actually a definite social spacing and order going on in there. It's the cow's way of protecting the herd, imprinted over millions of years of evolution. In the less natural environment of the holding yard, and particularly in bales without stall gates, disruption to the natural order leads to aggression and stress, especially towards heifers that are new to the herd. We can use this insight into social order when moving and handling cattle. Cows like to act together, whether it be walking, running, feeding, or lying down. When one animal needs to be isolated from the group, it may be preferable to move it within a small group to a location from which it can be drafted easily. Groups of cattle that have close contact generally remain much calmer. Blank walls on races and yards promote smooth and orderly stock movement by preventing visual distractions. However, race design should provide the animals with a clear view and of other animals moving ahead. Curved races with a gentle upward slope promote cattle flow better than straight races, possibly because the animals have to move forward to maintain visual contact with the animal ahead of them. Curved races are most useful where animals are required to wait in a queue rather than walk freely forward. Stall gates between feed troughs help discourage clashes during milking, giving each cow its own space, untroubled by others around them, be they friendly or the herd bully. To recap, the important things to know about cows that help when handling them include the key cow sensory characteristics of vision, hearing and smell, the 4 cow behavioural characteristics of social order, herding, following and personal space. It's just natural. Fear will make cows react defensively. The hormone adrenaline is released in response to fear or pain. This hormone also blocks the milk letdown process. A bad experience for the cow can stop her letting down milk for up to 30 minutes. It sure makes it worthwhile to keep things calm and consistent when bringing cows up for milking. And cows have a good memory, so alarming events can make a particular animal difficult in that area in future. As we are seeing, there are ways to get around these problems and achieve easier stock movements, better animal welfare and better production. Strange objects and locations will generally make cows fearful. Such things as sudden changes in lighting, changes in floor surfaces and or textures, changes in floor levels and fence or wall types. These features should be made as consistent as possible through a laneway, race or milking shed to reduce balking. It is also particularly important to minimise changes at critical points in the route. Changes such as at gates, pen exits, corners and entrances to races or laneways where novel features are likely to have a greater effect on ease of handling. Inconsistency or unpredictability in routine or environment always creates difficulties. Novel objects in the laneway, race or shed or moving and flapping objects will also cause balking. One solution if animals become fearful in an unfamiliar location or situation, is to allow them some extra time to familiarise themselves with the new environment. Trying to move animals quickly in unfamiliar environments may turn out costly in terms of time and effort, as well as risking injury to both animals and the handler. If given time, cows will explore their new environment and quickly learn to get used to it. Hurrying them up by force will just make them learn to associate the new routine or setup with a bad experience. To recap, the important principles in reducing fear include avoiding threatening sights, sounds and smells, preserve the natural social order, herding and following behaviours, provide familiar and non-threatening routes to travel and routines to expect. As we noted, cows associate experiences, good or bad, with people or locations. Indeed, research found that some test cows still react to a nasty experience a year later. So, we can use this feature to develop handling routines. If we allow the animals to initially move at their own pace and minimise jarring experiences, they can be expected to move more easily next time round, and to steadily establish long-term habits. One heartening aspect is that while an unfamiliar feature of the milking shed may initially be fear-provoking for heifers or new cows, over time they can be expected to grow more accustomed to that feature. However, we don't want a cow's bad experiences to pile up, as in some situations the cows do not become used to them. Adding a degree of unpredictability into the fearful experience can actually make cows more fearful over time. It's like someone pricking your finger with a pin. Your fear is greater if you know it is about to happen, but cannot predict when. Things like uncertainties among the cows about their order of entry, their position in the shed, or the actions of the milker can make the animals become increasingly fearful of certain features or routines. All sorts of learning processes can influence how cows respond to the milking shed. For example, particular animals, especially heifers, will take their cue from seeing how other cows respond to features of the shed. One way around this is to expose newcomers to people and the location before the activities such as milking, vaccination or artificial insemination are attempted. Introducing pregnant heifers to handling and the dairy before lactation can greatly smooth their later introduction to milking. And it is useful to practice positive handling or rewards. We all know the power of offering a free bribe such as barley. Indeed, such tasty snacks can be used to lead animals through situations they might otherwise reject. Other rewards, such as handlers rubbing cows on the head and neck, gently talking, or the provision of fixed brushes to allow cattle to rub themselves, can work to offset situations that might otherwise make cows fearful. It is now clear that the behaviour of handlers can be the major cause of cattle fearing humans in commercial situations. The research, not surprisingly, has shown the frequent use of negative behaviours by handlers such as hits, slaps, fast speed of movement, unexpected movement and shouting result in chronic, high fear levels in a dairy herd. In contrast, less use of negative behaviours and more frequent use of positive behaviours by handlers, such as stroking, rubbing, the hand resting on the animal's back or flank, slow and deliberate movement and talking, produced lower levels of fear in the herd. One unexpected finding was that some of our routine behaviours that we may not consider to be a problem, like whistles, mild slaps or hits with a polypipe, could in fact be causing serious, chronic stress in our herds. The symptoms of this are mild, but the effect on milk yield could be significant. At first we all say we're okay, but look more closely. Are you confident about your handling technique? What about the hired help? Are they undoing all your good work? Might some actions you take for granted be causing trouble? Here is the Cowtime challenge, the challenge to review our habits in handling cows. We must ask ourselves, are the handling and milking routines consistent and predictable? Is the work environment here in the shed tainted by previous bad experiences for cows? Is the dairy designed to take advantage of the cow's natural behaviours? Are we sufficiently sensitive, that is, applying positive behaviour to our cows? The good news is that since fear of humans is mainly a learned response, it can be reduced by handlers improving their behaviour towards cows. In other words, if handlers decrease their use of negative behaviours and increase their use of positive behaviours when the opportunity arises, fear of humans will decline. An important finding in some Australian studies was a strong association between the attitude of the handler and that handler's behaviour. In general, handlers with a good attitude towards handling cows showed better behaviour towards cows. If a handler believed that considerable verbal and physical force was required to move cows, the handler was more likely to show a high use of negative behaviours when handling cows. Not surprisingly, their cows also showed a high level of fear of humans. The other side of this story is the impact of animal on humans. The behaviour of the cow, by affecting ease of handling, will influence the attitude of the handler to handling. If the handler's attitude and behaviour are poor, the consequent difficulties in handling cows will reinforce this negative attitude, and in turn influence the subsequent behaviour of the handler. Yes, there's a cycle. For some, a cycle of frustration, but for others, a cycle of continuing improvement and harmony. Which would you rather have on your farm? Sure, it's no small task to change the behaviour of handlers towards cows, but it's more than worth a try, considering the rewards. Yes, handlers generally have attitudes, beliefs and habits that have developed over sometimes long experience. But the challenge, to find and smooth out the kinks in our operations, has to be met. After all, the costs of adjusting behaviour are virtually nil, and the payoff for making these adjustments can be dramatic. Why not start by estimating the average flight distance of your cows? How close can you approach without them trying to avoid you? This is an easy way to find out how fearful they are. Try it in the paddock and in the holding yard. Can you reduce the distance over a couple of months by modifying your behaviour towards your cows? An experiment involving 94 dairy farms was conducted to examine the value of a stock handling training package called Cow Care for targeting key attitudes and behaviour in dairy handlers. It found that the training program resulted in a 5% increase in milk yield, protein and fat, that 83% of cow handlers had an improvement in their behaviour towards cows, and that 77% of handlers had an improvement in the behaviour of their cows. Across the industry, individual farmers can solve many of their cow flow problems by reviewing their stock handling practices and get more milk in the vat while they're at it. Yes, it's about dollars, in many cases thousands of dollars. So to summarise, fear is not only an undesirable emotional state of suffering for livestock, it also causes problems for the handlers. From all standpoints, we are right to be concerned for the welfare of agitated cows. Firstly, because of the injuries that they might sustain in trying to avoid humans. Secondly, because if acute or even chronic stress develops, this will impact on the health and productivity of the animals. And thirdly, fearful cows have an impact on our own stress levels at milking too. So the good news is that being sensitive to your cows is also good for you. People who have knowledge of the behavioural and sensory characteristics of dairy cows and use handling practices that consistently minimise fear and stress will be more efficient handlers and milkers. As one of our Cowtime case study farmers has found, getting the cows, people and facilities to work well together at milking time has huge benefits.
I wouldn't have believed the difference in the way I treat the animals now. In the old shed I needed the poly pipe to belt them into the shed and they'd manure and all the rest of it. Now, I mean, the poly pipe gathers cobwebs in the corner of the shed, don't need it, the cows flow in beautifully, and basically I think they just love the environment, and the change has just been unbelievable.
So there you have it. What a bit of Cowtime cow psychology can do for your bottom line. Cowtime, making milking easier for you and your cows.